Today, I'm going to show you how we reimagine Target's 2023 Christmas potion bottles. The things we'll need to create our Target reimagined Christmas potions are all of the potion bottles. So there are 9 this year. There is North Pole, Christmas Spirit, Silver Bells, Gingerbread Cookies, Mistletoe Kisses, North Pole Snow, Peppermints, North Pole Workshop Dust, and Sugar Plums. So some of these we're going to keep the same. There's a couple that we're going to change, and there's reasons for it, and I'll go through that when we go to make them. But we're going to add one as well, and that's going to be Naughty to Nice potion, and that's going to be a color shifting potion. And I'm going to make one in one of these regular jars, and then I'm going to actually make a larger one for one of my patrons to win. We're going to use a bunch of different things to fill the bottles. So we're going to use a lot of what's already in these bottles, but we're going to add to them or make them just a tiny bit better. We are going to use some Peppermint Ornaments that I picked up at Hobby Lobby. I'm going to add some additional bells. We have a little bottle brush tree that we're going to add to a bottle. I have a cooking skewer, some red thin ribbon, and some white paint, and a gold bead for us to make a little North Pole. I have some little sugar berries back here, some fake snow, a bunch of different sealing waxes and hot glue guns, and an assortment of different cordings. And then we have our reimagined labels printed on sticker paper. And the link for this is in the description down below. Let's get started. Would you like a chance to win a monthly potion bottle? Then consider supporting me over on Patreon. All of my patrons have a chance to win a monthly potion bottle. Patreon not your thing? No worries. You can become a member here on YouTube, and you'll be able to unlock exclusive icons and emojis to use in the comment section. Link is in the description down below. These are the 2023 Target Christmas potions that you can get in the Bullseye Playground or Dollar Spot, whatever you want to call it. They are $1 a piece, so they have these little tags on here. And then as you can see, they are $1. So I was able to pick these up, and they had quite a few, so I feel like, even the Halloween ones this last year, they had them most of the season, so I feel like you should be able to go to your Target and still be able to pick these up, no problem. And a lot of the fillers in these are not bad, but there are some that are just kind of lackluster or look cheap, and I hate, as you guys know if you've seen any of my other Target Reimagined videos, I hate when they use the little paper squigglies in here. I think it just makes them look cheap and dumbed down. So I tend to remove those on all of these potions, and then we add other things in there. So a couple of these we're going to reimagine. So the Sugar Plums, these little foam plums are not bad. But I hate that there's this big white edge on them. Again, I just think it makes them look kind of eh. So we're going to replace these with some sugar berries. I love the Workshop Dust with the little wood shavings. I think that one is perfect. These peppermints, again, it's got that white foam edge. They're not bad. They could just be better. So that's why we went ahead and picked up some Peppermint Ornaments. The snow is great. Mistletoe Kisses. So we actually did mistletoe last year as one of our extra potions. So I decided to not do the mistletoe bottle, but if you want to keep this the way it is, but maybe change the label, I do have the tag from that last year, and I'll link that up above and in the description, so then that way you can check out last year's Target bottles, and then that way you can make more if you decide you want to. But we did do mistletoe last year, so I feel like you could change this up and use the tag we did last year. So this one is the North Pole. I don't know if you guys can see. It has candy canes in there. And when I think of the North Pole, it should look like the North Pole sign. I mean, they have a picture of the North Pole, but it doesn't actually have the North Pole in it. It has the candy canes. So we're going to use the candy canes in the mistletoe bottle to be an actual candy cane potion, and we're going to create our own North Pole for our potion. Christmas Spirit, I thought the little silver and gold confetti was kind of a fun idea to just kind of show that, but we're going to jazz this up quite a bit. They have silver bells. I just made mine bells, and as you can see, there's really only like 5 bells in there, so we're going to add a lot more, and I'm probably going to add some gold to it as well. And then the gingerbread cookies. Now, because these are brown, I don't hate these at all. I think they look cute. They look like little gingerbread cookies. They don't look like the peppermints where you have that random white foam edge. So we're going to keep the gingerbread in here, but we are going to get rid of those white squigglies and add some other stuff to it. Then, like I said, we are going to create a Naughty to Nice potion as well, and that one will be one of our alcohol color shift mica powder potions. So let's get into it. The first potion we're going to reimagine is the Sugar Plums. So I'm going to go ahead and cut the plastic off that's got the cork, and then we're going to take a heat gun to this label to help it peel off. Okay, so thank goodness these are not like last year's Christmas ones that even with the heat gun, they did not want to come off. So we ended up using one of my little palette scrapers for my Cricut and helping to scrape it off and then using some alcohol to get rid of it. It was awful. But these came off much nicer, similar to the Halloween ones. Now, I would just like to say I actually don't hate the labels they have on these this year, but I felt like we could just make some that would be a little bit more authentic looking, and that's why I went ahead and opted for it. But if you don't want to print any of the new labels, you don't have to. You could just upgrade the stuff inside, and I think that would be great too. Now, like I said, what I don't like about these is this big white edge on these foam cutouts. I love that they added the glitter to give it the sugar plum effect. So if you wanted to keep these, what I would say would be to take a permanent marker and go around the outside edge of this with a deep purple or plum color, go around the leaf with a green, and go around the stem with a brown. So then that way when it's in there, you're not getting this crappy white looking edge on there. So then that way it makes it feel a little nicer. But we're going to go ahead and do these sugar berries, which I think look more like true sugar plums. And I do have some images of the sugar plums in the background here, as well as like a little sugar plum dessert. So that's why I feel like these berries will be a little better for ours. But like I said, you could definitely make these look okay. I would just go around the outside edge with a matching marker. So speaking of a matching marker, just like always, I like to go around the outside edge of my labels with a matching marker just to make them look a little more finished and crisp. So we're going to do that with this one as well. This one has a really thin black border, so I'm just using a black. All right. So as you guys can see, it just makes that like white edge from us cutting it out disappear. And again, it just gives it a little bit more of a crisp look. All right, so we are going to pluck some of these berries off. I picked this stem up at Michael's, and it was on sale, so even better. Now with these little foam berries, you have to be careful because you can actually like peel the finish off. So we're going to just peel some and stick them in our jar. And if you do peel any of the finish off, you can go over it with a permanent marker and it's not going to be noticeable. So like this one where we just peeled a little finish off. I'm going to take my permanent marker here. And we're going to color it in, and because that's brighter, I'm going to go over it with a brown. And then that makes it way less noticeable. All right, now that I have all my little sugar plums in there, we're going to cap this up. And we're going to put our label on. All right, and I think that looks pretty straight. So to finish this one off, I'm going to do some green wrap up here. And we're going to wrap this just like we have hundreds of other bottles before. And I will put my tips and tricks video link up above in case you don't know how to wrap these yet. I go over it in there in depth. All right, but I think that one is simple but looks super cute, and it looks way more authentic than the original. The next potion we're going to transform is Workshop Dust. And like I said, this one is definitely my favorite. I love the little wood shavings they put in here. We're just going to tweak it and make it feel a little more authentic. So the first thing I'm going to do is take the label off of this. All right, this one did not come off as cleanly. It left a bunch of adhesive residue behind. So I'm just taking some rubbing alcohol and a paper towel to wipe that off. If you decide to use Gooby Gone, make sure you go over it afterwards with some rubbing alcohol, because otherwise it'll leave a really nasty greasy residue that your new sticker will not want to stick to. All right, there we go. So for this one, I'm going to do a champagne colored wax seal drip on the top, but I think it'd be really fun to embed a little wood curl into the seal. So I'm going to see if I can get out a good little like wood curl for me to add to the top. Okay, so I think these few little pieces back here will be good, so I'm just going to stuff this back in. Alright, so we're going to cap that back up. And I think my glue gun's ready here. Now the sealing wax is much more drippy than, say, colored hot glue, so just make sure that you have your glue gun on a low setting and go slow so that you can kind of manipulate your drips so that they don't go crazy. Okay, once we get our drips about the way we want to, while it's still damp, I'm going to add some of my little wood slices up here. Yeah, and I think that's just a cute little detail. And they're stuck in there, so they're not going to go anywhere. And I was going to do some brown wrapping, but apparently I forgot to do that, so I got too excited about my drips that I forgot about my cording, which is fine because then that way it gives us a little bit of a difference between regular ones with cording, ones with drips, ones with cording and drips, so I'm actually okay with that. Alright, so now that we have our drips on here, I'm going to pick the side that I want to be the front, and then that's going to be the side we put our label on, and I actually think it might be this side. So I already went around the outside edge with a matching marker on our label here. I'm going to peel the backing paper off, and we're going to add our label. And we have our North Pole Workshop dust. The next potion we're going to reimagine is our peppermints. Alright, that label came off way easier. So again, I don't hate these little peppermints, I don't like the white edge. So again, if you wanted to keep these and you didn't want to get some little ornaments like I have here, then I feel like you could definitely just take a marker and connect the little red sections so that you don't have the stark white edge on there. So see how the red lines up? So all you'd have to do is take a red marker and literally just make them look a little bit more complete. Yes, they're very flat, but, you know. Another thing you could do is, quite frankly, you could put some crushed up peppermints in here or actual peppermints. They're just hard candy. They're not really going to mold or anything. They may get sticky, or if they get into the heat, they may melt a tiny, tiny bit, but I mean, it's got to be a lot of heat for that. But they would be fine in here too. But I found these little ornaments in the miniature tree section at Hobby Lobby, and I thought they'd be perfect. I know I've seen some peppermint beads out there too for like little bracelets and things, and those would be really fun in here as well. Alright, now that I have that cleared out, I'm gonna open up my little mints here. Alright, so these, I was hoping they'd fit in the opening, but they're basically exactly the same size. So I'm gonna use a different small container for the peppermints, and we'll use this one for something else. Just gotta improvise. Now, I know that Michael's had some glass peppermint beads that I tried to get my hands on, but apparently there's another maker in my area, and she picked up all of them to probably make ornaments or something with them. So I was not able at any of my local Michael's to get my hands on them, but I know they're a little smaller than these, and they would have fit in here perfectly. So Something to think about. I'm just trying to hide a few of these little circles that are part of the like ornament. It's how it hangs. It doesn't bother me a ton because I think when you just first look at it, they're just cute little peppermints and you know, it kind of hides it. Now, because this doesn't fill it up all the way and because of those, I actually think I might add a tiny bit of translucent glitter to just kind of give it more of that sugary effect. I just have some white crystal fine glitter here. So I'm just going to add some into the jar. Quite frankly, it's probably going to be the rest of this, so and then I'm going to kind of mix this up. But see how it adds a little bit of the sugary look at the bottom, which one, hides some of the little mechanics, but two, I just think gives it a little bit more of a wintry vibe. So I like that. So I'm going to cork this up. And I'm going to use some white sealing wax on this one because I actually found at Michael's this really cute wax seal stamp that looks like a peppermint. So I think it'll be fun to add that to the top, and then I can color in the raised section red so that it looks like a peppermint. All right, so while that's warming up, I'm going to grab some red cording here, and we're going to put some cording at the top. All right, so we've got our little wrapping on here, and yep, I think this is about ready. I just used my heat gun to reliquify that so it will merge with the rest of the new white sealing wax because I don't want to waste it. Otherwise, it would have left a really weird bump. Man, after using a Gorilla Glue hot glue gun and going to a different one, you realize how good they really are. And that's not sponsored. They're just that good. And I think that's enough, so I'm going to add my wax seal up here. And because there's, I don't know if you guys can see, there's like a weird little edge that happened here where part of it had dried and part of it was still wet. There we go. I just hit it real quick with my heat gun, so it could take care of some of that. So if we get any weird drips like this that you just don't like, here's the beautiful thing. Take some scissors, snip it off, and it's gone. And then if I wanted to, I could take my heat gun to that, which I may here in a minute, and it would get rid of that little edge. And actually, for tiny little spots like this, I will tell you, a flame works better. It'll just boop, go right away. I love the little aged effect we get with our jute twine when you burn it too. So, yeah. All right, this should be dry. Beautiful. So we've got our peppermint wax seal up here. So we're going to take some red and add it to the raised portion of the mint. We could leave it white, but I think it'll be fun to just have a tiny touch of that red. But I'm going to add our label first. So for this label, I gave it kind of a vintage vibe and added a little bit of that blue just to contrast the red. So we'll go ahead and take our backing paper off. And I went around the outside edge with a matching marker, which in this case was kind of a ambery brown color. And again, we're going to find our favorite side, and that's the side we're going to make the front. or the side we want to hide something. So if we don't like a section, then you could put the label there and it would kind of cover it up. But I think this is actually my favorite section to be the front. So I think that looks pretty straight. All right, got our label on. All right, and I am going to take a red Sharpie to the parts that are sticking up. So we've got our little peppermint design up on the top, and that finishes our little peppermint potion. All right, the next one we're going to do is North Pole Snow. So a couple years ago, I made my winter apothecary jars that I use as a centerpiece on my dining room table, and one of the items we had in there was Enchanted Snow. So I used the same tag, I just shrunk it down, and we're actually going to hang it off of our bottle here. Obviously, we're going to remove that one, and just kind of give it its own little look, but it will play nicely with the other one. And just so you guys know what the tag says, it says a magical unmelting snow with the same density, color, and shape as regular snow, but it is warm and dry. So let me take the label off of this. All right, we got the label off. I'm going to use some black cording on this one. So anytime I do a tag, I like to, before I take any of the backing paper off, pre-fold it. So once we do take the backing paper off, it knows exactly where it's supposed to go so that you're not getting like a really crooked tag. All right, so I creased that really well. And I'm going to take the backing paper off of this. And then we're just going to refold that. And we have our perfect little tag. So I'm going to use this slightly thinner cording on this one. And we're going to wrap it, and then we're going to put our little tag on there. Got our cording on here. And now I'm going to take some extra cording. And we're going to push it through our tag here. Which, if you need to widen your hole on the tag, I like to use my weeding tool. And you can pick these up at the Dollar Tree. They are exactly the same as the ones you get from Cricut. But obviously way cheaper. I'm going to cut a fresh edge here. There we go. And then we're going to tie this on to our bottle. We have got our little Enchanted Snow bottle. Super simple, but super cute. All right, so this next one is Mistletoe Kisses. And as I said, last year we ended up doing a mistletoe jar that was an extra in my Target holiday potions. So you can definitely print the same tag, put it on here, and just make it the same one. But we're going to go ahead and pull these out, and I'm going to make this my North Pole because the North Pole one has the candy canes, and we're going to make that one candy canes. So let's get our label off, and then we're going to construct our little North Pole port key. All right, so these little mistletoe kisses, as they call it, are not bad, and I would definitely use these as mistletoe if you want to. I did show you another option last year, like I said, and I used some little mistletoe berries and leaves. But these aren't bad. I would maybe add a few little berries to it just to make it a little bit more mistletoe-y. But we're not making it mistletoe. We're making it the North Pole portkey. So, that being said, it needs to fit inside of here. So I'm going to cut this down to probably about here. So I'm going to use this to just kind of make a line because the little gold ball, okay, there we go. Sits on top of there and we want to be able to see it. So I am just going to cut this. Okay, and that's probably going to be the bottom of my pole. I'll probably use the flat side for the top. Save the rest of my cooking skewer to help us out later. And then to paint this, I'm just going to use a paper towel because we're just roughly doing this to make it white. So obviously it'll look like the North Pole. Just put a little bit of glue on there. I'm going to do my best not to get my hands all painty. Alright, so I got this all white. And I'm going to go wash my hands before this all gets dry. I'm going to use my heat gun to help it dry quicker. Alright, so this is now pretty much dry. I have some of my non-stick foil here, and we're going to use that in the end to make a little snow pile it's going to sit on, and then we'll glue that snow pile in here. So I have my hot glue heating up. We are going to... Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is take our red ribbon, and I'm going to put just a drop of glue up here, and we're going to spin it around to create those iconic red stripes. So I just need a tiny little drop of glue here. Alright, so I have glued my little end off here, and I'm going to trim it, and this ribbon likes to fray, but that is where, again, a lighter comes in handy because it melts the little ends so that it won't continue to fray. Alright, so now that we have our little pole, I'm going to glue our bead onto the top. Oop. Alright, we've got our little gold ball there. And then this is where the non-stick foil comes into play. We are going to create a little mound. And I'm going to stick my little North Pole in there. And add just a little bit more to build it up some. And then I'm going to take some of my fake snow here. Alright, and while it's standing, we're going to take some of our fake snow and sprinkle it on top of our glue. And then we're going to let that finish drying, and I'm going to hold it up straight. Alright, so we are going to take our little North Pole that now has its little snow base, and I'm going to add just a drop of glue on the bottom here. And we're going to carefully and quickly place it into our jar. And then I'm going to use the rest of the cooking skewer to help push it into place. And then I can kind of hold it in place until that glue fully sets, like that. And now we can put a little bit more of the snow in there. All right, now that we've got our little North Pole port key in here, we can cap this up. And again, this one is a tag, so we're going to do the same thing we did with the snow. And we are going to fold this in half and crease it really well so we know where it has to go. Now, if you didn't want to make this a tag, just cut that off right there and you can stick it on. But I didn't want to cover up the actual little North Pole that we just made, so I opted for this one to be a tag. So we'll take our backing paper off, and you want to be careful that it doesn't try to shift on you. It doesn't have as big of a connector as, say, the snow one did. All right, so once we stick our little tag together, now if you have any little edges or anything that are sticking out, just take your scissors and clean it up. And then I'm going to go around the outside edge with a matching marker. And now I need to make my hole. This is a little tiny hole punch. All right, so now that we have our tag all set, we can tie it on. And I'm going to use the same red ribbon that we used on the actual North Pole and string that through. All right, we're going to make this one a little bow, and like I said, this one frays like no other. So I'm going to trim some of this excess fray off. And then I'm going to hit that with the flame just so it doesn't fray. And we have our little North Pole port key. All right, the next one we're going to transform is Christmas Spirit. So I'm going to take this label off. All right, got the label off. So for this one, we're going to do a variation of what I did for my last video, which was making bottle brush tree topped antique bottles, which are so cute. But for this one, I want to use this little snow cap that comes on the tree. So we're going to do some drips right around the edge, but be careful not to get into it. And then we're going to cap it with our little snow tree. And then I'm going to go around and add some drips on top of that to really make sure it's on the top of the bottle good. right, so we got some cute little snowy drips on here. And I think that looks nice, and I love the little tree on top. All right, so just like the other ones, we're going to find our favorite side and add our label. I kind of think I like this side. And again, for this label, I went with kind of a vintagey vibe. And I wanted to make sure I incorporated the tree so it would kind of go with the fact that there's a tree on the top. Right, and we have our little Christmas spirit. The next bottle we're going to transform is Silver Bells. And I decided to make mine ever ringing bells. That way I could do more than just silver bells in there. I feel like that way I can do some gold ones as well. So we're going to change the label here. All right, so this one has those paper squigglies in there. So I'm going to take those out, as well as the few bells that are in here currently. And just pull the paper pieces out. All right, so we have the 5 bells that come in there. And we're going to add some of these. And I picked these up at Hobby Lobby. Trying to get in a good assortment of sizes here. I love these super tiny little bells. I'm going to add in some of the other sizes of these silver ones. So I think that that is a good mix of the silver and gold bells. So we're going to cork this up. And I want to do black cording on this one. All right, this one I'm going to add some green drips to the top. And I think I'm going to try to leave part of the cork showing here. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. All right, I've got my label here, and I'm going to pick a front side. I actually think I like this one to be the front. I'm going to peel the backing paper off. And there we have our ever-ringing bells. The next one we're going to reimagine is the North Pole, which has the candy canes in it. So we are going to make that our magic candy canes to bring you health. So we're going to go ahead and get the label off of this one. So that one came off pretty easy as well. We're going to pull our items out here. So I might just try to see if I can snag the paper so I can just leave the candy canes in there. All right, so we've got both candy canes. And they're kind of crossed in there. And I actually think I like how simple this one is. I don't know that I want to add anything else to it. We'll see in a sec here. So I'm going to recork this. And then I've used this in several other videos before. This is a bow ribbon. So it actually comes with 2 strands. So you get the actual ribbon and then you get a string. And you cut this to whatever length you want your bow to be. So we're just going to cut it here. And when you bring your ends together, you just grab the 2 string parts and then you pull up and it cinches all of the ribbon into a beautiful fluffy bow. And then you can just kind of adjust and fluff it out the way you want. And all you have to do is knot this off in the back and it'll stay a nice bow. All right, so there's my knot and there's my pretty fluffy little bow. So I don't want this to just look like I tied it on with the string, so I'm going to take a small bit of this and I'm going to just pull the string off altogether. So I'm left with just the ribbon itself. All right, so I'm going to take my ribbon that I took the string off of, and I'm just going to push that through. And we're going to knot this bow onto our ribbon. And now that I have my little bow tied onto my ribbon, I'm then going to tie the ribbon. All right, so now we have our fancy little bow here, and I'm going to just trim a few of the ends. All right, so we've got our little candy canes in there. And I'm going to add our label. And I already went around the outside edge with a matching marker. And I wanted to put the label on this one a little lower so you can actually see the hooks of the candy cane above it. And yeah, that one's super simple, but I think that looks good, and I think that one's done. So there are our magic candy canes. The last of their original bottles that we're going to be reimagining is Gingerbread Cookies. So I decided to make a cute little cookie tray with the gingerbread cookie on it for our label, because I actually think the little gingerbread men that are in here are pretty cute. So again, we're going to get rid of these paper pieces, but first I'm going to go ahead and get that label off. All right, now that that's off, I'm going to see. We're just going to pull these little gingerbread guys gently out. And see, and these make more sense because one, gingerbread cookies are flat, and two, it's made of the brown foam, so it's not like you're seeing a white edge. If they would have made these out of a white foam and then printed the brown on there, I would not have been as fond of them. So I probably would have replaced them. I do know that they do make beads and things that are gingerbread men, so you could definitely upgrade this if you want to, but I personally didn't feel like it was necessary because they just look like little miniature cookies. All right, so now that I'm about halfway through, I'm going to see if I can just kind of knock them off to the side and try to pull some of these paper pieces out. And gingerbread men are flying everywhere. All right. And now we're going to put all of our little gingerbread men back in. All right, I think that's all the little men that went flying. So again, I'm going to recork this up. And I decided to do some red drips on this one, but first we're going to wrap it with this natural cording that has these little silver tinsel wrapped in it as well. I thought it would kind of play nicely with the cookie sheet idea with a little bit of silver. Okay, there we go. We've got our little wrapping on top of our gingerbread men, so we're going to go ahead and add some red drips. All right, and while that dries, I think we'll figure out which side we want to put our label on, which might actually be this side because I feel like you can see the gingerbread men better on the other three sides. So since this one's going to get covered up by part of the label, I feel like that's the best side to do it on. So this one's not exactly square, so I'm just trying to see if I feel like the text looks straight, which I think it does. So slap our little gingerbread man in the pan on there. And there we go. We have our little gingerbread cookies. All right, so this is a bonus potion, and this is our naughty to nice potion. So I'm using the leftover jar since we used a different one for peppermints. And then I'm just using a larger bottle that one of my patrons will have a chance to win. So because we're using isopropyl or rubbing alcohol, we are going to change out the regular corks for some rubber corks. So just for your information, the jar from Target is a 1, and this guy is going to take a 2. So the first thing we're going to do is fill up a chunk of our jar here with our alcohol. And then I'm going to put some in here. Now this is optional. You do not need to do these in a separate container. I'm just doing it because it's really fun to watch, especially for you guys on camera. But if you're doing this at home, you can mix all of this in the same container. All right, so I'm going to take my black food coloring, and I'm going to start with just a drop, because you can always add more, but it's kind of hard to take out. You can always thin it down, but again, you're wasting alcohol and other resources. And since this is naughty to nice potion, I want it to go from black or really dark, and then the gold, when it's shaken, will make it light, which I think kind of gives a nod to naughty and nice. I have a feeling I'm going to need one more drop in this one. Yeah, I can already tell I am. All right, now that we have our black mixed into those, we're going to mix our gold mica powder. All right, I've got my gold mica powder here. I'm going to make sure I get it really, really mixed in. I'm going to get this luscious gold color. Almost looks like molten metal. All right, and then we are going to pour it into our potion. And we get this really awesome dark gold effect. Now for this one, I might add just another spoonful just to make sure it gets light enough. It's close. And once it settles and goes back to that, it's still going to be a huge shift. And because it's in the black, and the black is kind of a purpley blue black, it ended up dulling down the gold quite a bit. So I might add just a tiny touch of bronzy copper to brighten it up, just a hair. So I'm going to add just a tiny bit. All right, so I think that warmed it up just a little bit, and then we'll be able to let that settle. So I'm going to take a dry paper towel here and wipe the inside neck and clean that up. And then I like to rough up my cork a little bit. All right, I've got my cork in there. And I'm going to set that off to the side, and we're going to focus on the little one. So I'm going to add some more alcohol in here. And as you can see, there's still some gold from the one before, but I'm going to add some of that copper to warm it up. All right, and I think we got a nice warm color with that one as well. I'm going to dry the neck of this. All right, I roughed up the cork. Oop, okay, so we are going to have to dump just a little bit of this out. Let me re-dry this. All right, and now we get our warm gold naughty to nice that when it settles, it will be black again. All right, so I'm going to put some black cording on this. All right, now that I have my black cording, I'm going to take some of my Goldie Champagne sealing wax, and we're going to go around the edge of this. But I still want to see some of that cork. It's that play on the gold and black. All right, so I think that looks pretty good. We're going to put our label on here. All right, I'm going to take my backing paper off. All right, and we have our little naughty to nice potion. And there you have it, our reimagined Target Christmas 2023 potion bottles. I feel like changing just a few things on these really makes a big difference and just takes them up a notch. I'll put a link up above and a card at the end that'll take you to last year's Target potions in case you want to get some more free labels to use on some other little Christmas bottles, or if you just want to see what we did with those. And I'll also put a link down below to the Halloween Target potion bottles we did just a couple months ago. I feel like these will be a great addition to our potion and prop collection we make along the way. So if you guys like this video, give me the thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, please do so, and we will catch you guys later. Thanks so much.